15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
My dad used to say that.
Sure, yeah. It's from Geico.
Yeah, whenever I would ask my dad for life advice, he'd sit me down and say, son, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. And look at me now, a well-adjusted adult with a drawer full of plastic bags I'll never use.
Okay, I'm confused. Was your dad a licensed Geico agent?
Nah, he was just a real good dad.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
It's an 80s Throwback Thursday. It's one of the greatest movies of all time. So good. Required viewing for all. 80s Throwback Thursday. Puck with you here until 1 o'clock. We are inside the West Seattle Youth Baseball Studio. Big thanks to Eric Moe. His contribution of $750 yesterday, now totaling $18,250. So we appreciate that. West Seattle Youth Baseball Studio, our studio home here for the next week. Curtis Crabtree here. He's in the Red Box Producers booth. Smarter way to watch and play. Of course, we were talking about in that first segment about the details of the Jamal Adams contract situation. Great reporting by Adam Jude and Bob Condotta of the Seattle Times, detailing where we were at in the standoff between Adams and the Seattle Seahawks. Helping us break it down. Also, question or two on Dwayne Brown, the best in the biz and covering contracts. Joel Corey from CBS Sports joins us right now on the Beacon Plumbing Hotline. You can follow Joel on Twitter at CoreyJoel. Joel, appreciate the time. Thanks so much, sir.
Sure, thanks for having me.
What you've seen the article, I know you've commented on it already, of what you've seen in the latest situation there with Adams and the Seahawks. It's pretty rare. I mentioned this earlier. It feels rare to me that you see these types of actually numbers in a reported story, whether it's coming from the team or it's coming from the agent. That we just don't ever really see this type of great detail of where the two sides are in terms of the contract. Sometimes in other sports you see it, not so much. It feels like it in the NFL. When you read that story, what was kind of your general takeaway or your first takeaway from what you saw?
One, I was shocked at the specificity, and two, this is a leak from the Seahawks because they're trying to paint themselves as, hey, we've been over backwards, we've been reasonable, he needs to sign this deal. That's how I'm looking at it. This is more of a Seahawks leak than a player leak. I never thought this deal would get to Bobby Wagner. I thought that would be the ceiling, that you were never getting $18 million per year. Top of the safety market is $15.25. If you wanted to do a hybrid, you take Darius Leonard's $19.7, Justin Simmons $15.25. That gets you an average of $17.475. You're above that. Now, I don't know exactly how backloaded this deal is. If it's extremely backloaded, I understand why Adams hasn't signed, but if it's reasonably structured, then this thing should get done.
You had mentioned on Twitter a bit ago, and I just want more thoughts on this one, where you wrote where Jamal Adams has already won by getting the Seahawks to pay significantly more than the current safety market, as long as the deal, as you just mentioned, isn't backloaded. I understand why the Seahawks are drawing the line in the sand. You would say, though, more, in your opinion, of seeing contracts, this is more than fair what the Seahawks right now on the table have offered him.
Oh, I'm sure they viewed him as a traditional safety. He didn't care that he set the record for defensive back for sacks, that the safety market's at 15.25. They're probably thinking 16 max. They're way above that. So they probably stretched more than anyone ever thought they would. So to me, that's why he's won. That he's gotten them to go way beyond what anyone thought they would. As long as it's not a Patrick Mahomes backloaded structure, he's going to be the clear winner of this situation. If one of the holdups is, I want the second year fully guaranteed at signing, that does not happen in Seattle. It hasn't happened for a good 7-8 years. Russell Wilson doesn't have that. Bobby Wagner doesn't have that. Tyler Lockett's last deal doesn't have that. If you're asking for that, you're going to be waiting until the cows come home to get a deal done, because Seattle will not deviate from their structure to accommodate you, Jamal Adams.
Joel Corey again with us from CBS Sports, detailing all of NFL contracts, and he's the best in the business at it. You can follow Joel there on Twitter at Corey Joel, one of the things that they note in the article and the reporting by Adam Jude and Bob Condotta is what you've alluded to several times here, Joel, that Adams' camp also wants to move bonus money into the first 3 years of the contract, but the Seahawks prefer to spread it over the 4 years. It says prefer. It seems to indicate maybe they'd be willing to do in the first 3. What is your understanding, I guess, in contracts with the Seahawks when it comes to something like that?
Well, that's going to get to more to a cash flow issue in terms of how this deal's structured. And that gets to what I mean by backloaded. So I'd have to see what the yearly breakdown is to be able to give a more definitive comment. But on the surface, if there's $38 million in guarantees, I'm not sure how much is fully guaranteed at signing, but it's going to be less than other teams. I don't know how much of it will be vesting after year 2 as opposed to in the 3rd year. That could kind of influence my opinion, but I still think that the fact that he's got them to move so much on the overall money and the average, it's a victory for him.
Joel, $2 million doesn't seem like a lot of money in terms of NFL contracts, and that was what was reported. $38 million guaranteed, where the Adams camp wants $40 million guaranteed. That seems like a number that can be hashed out here in the next few weeks.
Yeah, you would think so. I anticipate this deal getting done because I know he's got leverage from the standpoint they gave up an arm and leg to get him, including 2 first-round picks. So the moral of the story is if you're going to give up multiple first-round picks for a guy, get a deal done when you trade him because it's going to be less of a headache. But 2, do you really want to play out the deal and then potentially be on a franchise tag? And then that opens up a whole other can of worms where I think it's not getting to this, but if it did, there'd be a grievance filed over position because if you look at where he lined up and you take Pro Football Focus seriously, he may have a case to be at a linebacker as opposed to a safety just because the franchise tag position is determined by the position where he took the most snaps in the previous year. And if he's lined up at a linebacker more so than a safety, you could have an issue. Jimmy Graham filed a grievance to be classified as a wide receiver in law, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. If it got to that point, which I don't think it will, that would be an issue down the road. But I anticipate this still being done before the regular season starts.
Joel, let's switch gears over to Dwayne Brown. That's the other storyline that's kind of been overshadowed by Jamal Adams. He is holding in. He's at camp. $10 million he's owed on the final year of his contract. He obviously wants a new contract similar to what the issue was in Houston. How do you think this thing plays out with Dwayne Brown and the Seahawks? And do you see both sides of this issue when it comes to this deal? Seahawks side, hey, you're under contract 1 more year. Brown saying, yeah, I'm under contract 1 more year, but I want to be taken care of here for a couple more years.
Yeah, I understand Seattle's concern because at the end of the month he turns 36. So you're talking about paying him 37, 38, 39 years old. I'd be hesitant about that. The best comp you have is Andrew Whitworth, but Andrew Whitworth's deal averages less than what Brown's averages right now. So I understand why he wants to get paid. He's like, hey, I'm still a Pro Bowl caliber guy. I'm not slowing down. I can play another 3-4 years at this level. We should take care of me now. The best thing he has going for him is that Russell Wilson's in his corner. For a guy that consistently talks and says nothing, Russell Wilson took a stand in this case. And this gets back to his supposed unhappiness in the offseason with some of the moves that were made, that Seattle may want to think twice about alienating Russell Wilson when he's like, hey, I need my guy. Let's get my guy long term. Because if Russell's not happy, it isn't quite the same thing as you have in Green Bay. Are you going to have another issue next offseason if things go south here and with this Dwayne Brown situation?
And a lot of fans, Joe, have come out and said, well, why doesn't Russell just, take some of his money and then move it later in his contract so they can pay Dwayne Brown or Jamal Adams? Let's just use Dwayne Brown here for a second to give him more money. You were the first one to point out that the Seahawks, they don't need his permission to do it. They can simply just go in and do it if they would like to. Why are they and other teams are hesitant to do it? Why are the Seahawks hesitant to do something like that?
Well, because, one, it raises cap numbers in the future. Plus, Seattle rarely does it. They did it to get Dwayne Brown. Russell did it, and also Doug Baldwin did it to accommodate think Sheldon Richardson, but you don't need to do it in this case. He's got a $10 million base salary. Hypothetically, you could lower his base salary to $1.5 million. Let's say you gave him a 4-year extension. You could give him a signing bonus up to $42.5 million, and cap number stays the same. So Dwayne Brown wouldn't get a $42.5 million signing bonus, probably wouldn't stretch it out 4 years, but he can create his own cap room through an extension. So it's a nice gesture, Russell talking about it or needing to be done. And the same with Jamal Adams. He's got a $9.86 million fifth-year option. He can create his own cap room, so you don't need to do it for either of these guys.
Joel, it's terrific stuff. Thank you so much for always shedding light on the NFL contract world. It's a wealth of knowledge, and we appreciate the time.
Sure, thanks for having me.
Yeah, there's Joel Corey, CBS Sports. Catch all his work there at cbssports.com. Also, follow him there on Twitter at Corey Joel. He is the best in the business when it comes to NFL contracts and money and how they can do things and move some stuff around. Of course, the big story of the day, and the reporting there by Adam Jude and Bob Condotta about the contract situation with Jamal Adams. The Adams camp wants $40 million guaranteed. The Seahawks at this moment, they say they're not budging on their final offer. At least that's what they're saying publicly. You know how these things work. Anything can change. They are sticking right there at $38 million guaranteed. It doesn't seem like much difference between $38 and $40 million that we all anticipate something getting done here. But now both sides going publicly with their offer. And I tend to agree with Joel there. This definitely seems like this is coming from the Seahawks camp to say, hey, listen, we've given you a fair offer and sign it. Now we'll see what the reaction ultimately here in the next few weeks will be for the Jamal Adams camp. All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll come back with more on an 80s Throwback Thursday inside the West Seattle Youth Baseball Studio on 950K.
A lot of us are looking for ways to start our day feeling more joy and appreciation. And while some of us write gratitude lists or do yoga, others pour themselves a bowl of their favorite cereal, Honey Nut Cheerios. Because not only are Honey Nut Cheerios delicious, they can help lower cholesterol as part of a heart-healthy diet. So maybe the secret to a great mood all day is a little yoga, then writing your gratitude list over a bowl of Honey Nut Cheerios. Learn more about a heart-healthy lifestyle at Cheerios.com.